Viva Chile, viva Chile, a Chile quiero, chileno yo soy.
All right, welcome back to Red Hot Chile. This is your host, Dr. John Coben. My producer's got some worry that maybe the sound quality is not going to be so great on YouTube because we have a different microphone system. And this surf is really roaring here. I'll tell you what, it's not possible to get the shot of those over there, is it? Those shining, shimmering ships over there. It's like the marine layer over Valparaiso is kind of lifting a little bit. You can see the sun getting over here. It's just like a fog. The marine layer is so low where it's like a fog. And yeah, that's a good shot for maybe YouTube look for this, the viewers to be able to see the ships shimmering over there and some of the Valparaiso coast. Well, at any rate, the Valparaiso situation is just a tragedy. There's a lot of ways you can contribute. We think the best way to do it is to get in touch with local churches here that know people that have been hurt, and personally, and with an accountability way to sort of give you a photo of the family and the actual name, so you can make sure the money gets to them. Of course, if you're in Chile, you can deliver goods, specific goods to them, diapers, school supplies for kids, and non-perishable food items, and maybe even things like blankets or a bed. That's great, but you've got to really be in Chile to do that. If you're outside of Chile and you can send down some money, you can send it to me or another church we can find and just designate it as going for the cause, and we will find a way to distribute the funds. If you need to, like I say, if you don't have any other way to do it, send it to the same way you would for consulting services. John Coben, Viña del Mar, Chile. Go to MoneyGram, it's the cheapest way to do it. And just make sure when you email me the code number so I can go pick it up, that you designate this is for relief for people in Valparaiso. I'll be happy to turn it over 100% to the local church here that I know, the Reformed Baptist Church, in English that's what I call it, the Reformed Baptist Church of Reñaca. That's part of Viña del Mar. It's actually called Reñaca Christian Church, technically, and they'll be able to handle the distribution to specific people. That's the way I prefer to handle it. If you send it direct to some of the agencies, there's always going to be somebody skimming off the top, and there's going to be some chance for corruption. So that's what I suggest you do. We didn't, the first over the weekend, at any rate, and even Monday, I still saw the flames shooting up in the evening, and I did not see that last night. So I think there's hot spots over there. They're still flaring up, but I think the water dumps have done a good job in really getting rid of the big flames. Just the coals are still bristling. When we were down there, we were told that pretty much they'd blocked off access up the road. We didn't try to actually climb up the hills over Valparaiso to see it, but Joe got a few shots, at any rate, of some of the burnout areas, and of course there are many on the internet. Just go online and you'll be able to see what the devastation, destruction was with this fire. Again, this is the same level as Chicago fire, the San Francisco fire. It's that kind of destruction that we've seen here in this city. All right, well, the Argentines offered to send some of their water-carrying planes. I guess they did to help out. Glad they did, of course, but I'll tell you what, Argentina's a basket case. They got unions on strike, and they've got just everything in disarray, as nothing's changed. I mean, it's just been that way for a long time as Argentina continues to slide downhill. Again, in Chile here, we're not surprised. Look, it's even glistening even more over there in Valparaiso now. I mean, I've never done a radio show on the beach before, folks. This is quite a unique experience. It's fun to watch. You have good scenery. I don't know if it's worth getting another shot over there or not of all that. It's certainly clearing up. We were thinking about going over to the palm trees under there, and we thought, well, maybe when it's a sunny day. Yesterday was a beautiful, sunny, warm day, and it's such a contrast, such a difference out here today. Anyway, well, that's probably all I have to say about the Valparaiso event. A lot of it's already seen on the news. It was far more damaging than the earthquake up in Iquique. Remember, this is a much larger metro area here in Valparaiso, almost 1 million people if you count Viña del Mar and the inland areas along with it, whereas Iquique and Arica have probably less than half of that combined. Not that to say earthquakes are okay. It was a very devastating thing up there with 1,147 homes severely damaged, but at least in an earthquake, after it's done, and you can climb over the cracks in the roadway and all the horrible things that happened up there, at least you can go back and get your clothes out, right? Or get some money that you had in the house, get it out of the house. When you're burned to the ground and everything around you is burned, boy, there's nothing left. Well, at any rate, let's switch gears a little bit. I want to spend the rest of the show talking about something that's really very important. I printed out especially for the beach today, a copy of our blog, the Escape America Now blog, and specifically this entry, is the grass greener on the other side? Now you'll see since this has been posted, there's a couple other entries. One is Dr. Stephen Yates, his comments on this and his thoughts after being here almost 2 years in Chile, and in large agreement with what I'd written in this post, and adding a couple things on his own. It should also be interesting to read if you have a chance to go and see that. We also have another post on Chile coming out at number 7, again in Heritage Foundation's ranking of the freest places in the world. But I really wanted to talk about this because sometime during the week we had a big discussion again with some folks here in Chile who've been down now about 4 or 5 years, and they were being plagued with the syndrome that I call the grass is greener on the other side. And I say that because the old the illusion here, the cows always sticking his head through the barbed wire fence, thinking the grass on the other side of the fence is greener than that which is on its own side. And we tend to have that sort of problem when we move to a different country. Because for us, we're used to the negative things in our country that grow on us so gradually over the years that the different defects, problems, sins, whatever you want to call them, just tend to become part of the background for us. So we get used to them. They don't bother us as much. Like my wife said, it's kind of like lying in Chile. We're all used to people in Chile being liars, and so when they lie, we don't consider it really to be lying. We just don't believe people from the start. They tell us, yeah, I'm going to see you on Sunday afternoon, or I'll call you about that job, or yeah, I'll come over for dinner that night, and they don't do it, and foreigners are surprised, but Chileans never expected them to show up in the first place. It's just a way to be nice, and they don't consider it lying, but it's lying. There's no other way to say it. They make a commitment to do something, and then they don't do it. They don't follow through. And so they get used to that, so they don't consider it bad. Well, it's the same thing with, in the U.S. with, being used to political correctness or abortion, knowing that, so many people that walk around that you meet in the U.S. have had abortions and maybe don't even think it's a problem. I think it's right to be able to kill an unborn child, for instance, or to put up with, hyper feminists or radical homosexual, movement people that are out there as activists, man-boy love association. Kiddie porn. There's a lot of stuff around in the United States or in Western Europe, Canada, Australia, that you just get used to, and it doesn't seem so bad because you're living in it, and you tend to forget about these kinds of things. That is a problem, and it's so shocking when you're here and see the problems that Chile has that you didn't have, the mistrust, for instance, or the horrible bureaucracy. Maybe it wasn't so bad in your own country, that you just think it's just the most awful, despicable, disgusting thing, and you can't stand it. And you tend to forget that in your own country there were things that were not that, but just as bad or worse, other things, and so I try to remind people of this, but it's difficult. Because about that time, they're remembering the good things about, for instance, the United States. There's many good things about the United States. A great, generous country, generous people, voluntaristic people, generally honest. I mean, at the top, you got some Madoff types, I realize, but you can usually trust people there. You kind of like assume they're trustworthy until they prove otherwise. Here it's the other way around. And so you begin to think about those good things, and it turns out, you forget about all the bad things. So this post is about a reality check. It's about being honest about Chile, and it's about being honest about what the United States or Western Europe or Canada or Australia, New Zealand, these kind of places are like. I don't want to pick on New Zealand too hard because it's a far better place than all the rest of those I just mentioned, because its economic policy is so free relative to other countries. Australia is always highly ranked as a free country. I don't know why. As far as I can tell, it's just very, very socialistic still, interventionistic. But anyway, do you really want to go back to Egypt, to use a biblical adage? I mean, are the leeks and onions so tasty and the security there so great? Those old friends, those old customs, is that really something you want? After you've settled down, you've taken all the trouble of coming to Chile, learning some of the language, and you're just about coming into basic fluency after 3, 4, 5 years. You're starting to speak a little bit and understand and be part of the social life here with Chileans. You can understand some stuff and participate. Are you really thinking that's better to go back? Well, let's talk about, first of all, what are the real problems here in Chile. Let's be real honest about it. I've been saying this for years. I mean, 5-something years ago, I wrote a post about 10 things or 8 things, I think it was 9 things maybe, that Americans would just hate about Chile when they come here. And those things were true then, and they're true now, and there's also some other things. I actually got at least 12 very, very, very serious points against Chile that I want to go over. And then after that, I have another 13 that I've added that are, also very bad points about Chile, but not unique to Chile. And let's talk about it. So you have a real clear understanding of what you're getting into when you come to this country, which I praise so much and that I'm so in favor of. And then let's talk about, after that's done, let's talk about what's just really bad about the United States that isn't here in Chile and why it's better to be here. And let's get some real perspective, balance these two things out and see why you made the choice to move here in the first place and why it's still a better choice than being in the land of the free, Canada, Australia, and most of Europe. That's the goal. Well, we're running out of time in this segment, so when we come back, we'll start off with how bad Chile is. You're listening to Red Hot Chile on the Overseas Radio Network. We'll be right back.